everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Dose, where we are studying the book of Revelation. So we have gone through all the chapters of Revelation, and here we are towards the end, chapter 19. If you need to head back and watch a couple of videos to catch up, do so, because this is where things start to get real. So chapter 19 is where we're at. Let's get into it. So in chapter 19 starts out with this beautiful, beautiful worshiping the Lord. And it's just this beautiful passage where we hear all about praising God. Now I gotta say, I have a friend from college, and she is one of the most faithful people that I know. Through every event in her life, she is always praising God in the great ups and even in the valleys. Well, a couple of weeks ago, her dear brother went for a run. He's training for a marathon, and he went missing. And he still hasn't been found even 12 days later. And throughout all of this, there has been grief and sorrow for sure. And in the midst of this, my friend from college has been posting on social media updates where she's been offering praise and thanksgiving to God. I just think it's kind of amazing. You see, because here we are in the book of Revelation and things are bleak. Things are really bleak. There's beasts, there's darkness. There's a dragon. This is dark stuff. The darkest time in my own life was in 2020 when my dad passed away after contracting COVID, only 1 month before the COVID vaccine was available. I was also due with my second child. There was chaos in the world politically and just with the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a dark time. When you look at this passage, when we get to chapter 19 in Revelation, it's easy to imagine that the dragon is winning. It's easy to imagine that the beasts will overcome the day, that they will champion over the earth. But yet, in the midst of it, we hear this song of praise and thanksgiving. And then, on verse 11, who should appear? I'll read it for you. Then I saw heaven open, and there was a white horse. Its rider is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems. And he has a name inscribed that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, wearing fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh he has a name inscribed, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Well, I think you can imagine who this is. Maybe you know some imagery or some songs with these names in them. But of course, we know from the Gospel of John that the Word of God is Jesus. So here we have Jesus coming in to save the day. And in the rest of chapter 19, the beast is defeated. The beast is defeated, and get this, those were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur, and the rest were killed by the sword of the rider on the horse, the sword that came from his mouth, and all of the birds were gorged with their flesh. Ugh, some harsh imagery. But I imagine what we're meant to see here is that the beasts do not overcome the day. In fact, it is Jesus with a robe dipped in blood who comes and leads the battle. So I have some questions for you as we end in chapter 19 here. And my first question is, why do you think that it's important that Christ's name is faithful and true? What's important about that name, faithful and true? You remember in verse 11, we're introduced to the rider whose name is faithful and true. And as we read, we realize it's Christ. And my second question is, why does it matter how we as Christians view the end of the world? Why does the book of Revelation matter? Thanks for tuning in on the Daily Dose. We're about to wrap up our series on Revelation, so we hope to see you again as we read the final chapters.